The controversy over Taiwan's political status stems from World War II, the second phase of the Chinese Civil War and the Cold War. Any Chinese military attack on Taiwan would have a greater impact on global trade flows than the Ukraine conflict, according to Taiwan's top trade negotiator, who predicted a shortage of semiconductor chips. And how would the China-Taiwan conflict have a significant global financial and economic impact? So, keep watching to know more about it. Click the subscribe button and enable notifications to receive new updates. So without further ado, let's begin. Russia's February invasions of Ukraine triggered commodity price increases and food export bans, raising fears of famine in poorer countries. According to John Deng, if China attacks Taiwan, the potential disruptions would be worse, citing the world's reliance on Taiwan's for chips used in electric vehicles and mobile phones. The disruptions to international supply chains, the disruptions to international economic order, and the opportunity to grow would be far, far greater than this, he told Reuters on the sidelines of a major World Trade Organization's ministerial meeting in Geneva. There will be a global supply shortage. The Taiwan government has reported no signs of an impeding China's attack, but Taiwan has been on high alert since the Ukraine war began, wary of Beijing's intentions. The Chinese government declares its desire for a peaceful reunification, but reserves other options for Taiwan, which it considers a Chinese province, a view that the democratically elected government in Taipei strongly opposes. Taiwan dominates the global market for advanced chip productions with $118 billion in exports last year, according to data. Deng stated that he hoped to reduce the 40% share of its exports to China. The Russian invasions is the first time a WTO member has invaded another in the organization's 27-year history. The body is hoping to reach a package of agreements, including one on food security, to ease strained supplies, but trade sources say the war's tensions may make that more difficult. Taiwan, which has joined Western sanctions against Russia, gave Ukraine's WTO delegate a standing ovation on Sunday because Beijing prevents Taiwan from participating in other multilateral organizations. The WTO is one of the few places where China and Taiwan can coexist. Taiwan's Deng stated that the island known as Chinese Taipei at the WTO has been encouraged by the WTO negotiations so far this week. It is also attempting to resolve a 3-year-old dispute with India over technology tariffs prior to a formal WTO ruling. We are collaborating with them, Deng said. Impact on economy and supply chains. While the Russia-Ukraine conflict rages in Eastern Europe, we should keep an eye on the China-Taiwan tensions in the Far East. The difficulties encountered by Russian troops in Ukraine have raised concerns in China, according to CIA Director William Burns. However, he added that Chinese President Xi Jinping's determinations to reclaim the territory, which they regard as a breakaway province, should not be underestimated. The statement demonstrates that the threat of another military invasion, which could disrupt the already strained supply chain, remains. Burns made the assessment at the annual Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence hearing on global threats, which was also attended by several other intelligence chiefs. In light of this assessment, Bureau has released a select analysis of supply chain and category impacts if a conflict between China and Taiwan breaks out. Since 1949, Taiwan has been governed independently of China. However, Beijing continues to consider Taiwan to be a part of mainland China. Chinese military pressures on Taiwan has increased, and fears of a war between Taiwan and China have spread around the world, with the United States supplying weapons to Taiwan. However, the United States continues to adhere to the One China policy, which recognizes China and Taiwan as one country and maintains ties with China rather than Taiwan. International relations and Taiwan. Number 1. Taiwan is not a member of the United Nations because China has not approved its membership. Taiwan is also barred from participating in the World Health Organizations and other international organizations, limiting its membership to states. Number 2. However, it is a member of over 40 organizations, the majority of which are regional in nature, such as the Asian Development Bank, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, and the World Trade Organization. Number 3. Taiwan also maintains diplomatic relations with 15 countries in East Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. China's involvement in Taiwan politics. China has used a variety of strategies to weaken Taiwan's government. Among them are the following. Number 1. Frequent cyber attacks since Tsai elections as president in 2016. Number 2, the spread of misinformation about Taiwan's presidential candidate during the election period. Number 3, political rebuke for Taiwan's handling of the water crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and power outages. Conflict and dependence between Taiwan and China. Number 1, in the midst of a drought in Taiwan, China's provisions of water and other major cross-strait infrastructure projects demonstrate Taiwan's future reliance on China for integrated development. Number 2, in addition, China has increased its use of army bombers, fighter jets, warships, and surveillance planes over and around Taiwan. Non-military measures, such as limiting Chinese tourism to Taiwan, are also expected to harm Taiwan's economic prospects. the escalations of China-Taiwan relations and its impact on global economies. Trade and external relationships have deteriorated with rising tensions over China's domineering strategies. The short-term outlook for Taiwanese trade appears to be positive. However, the long-term outlook emphasizes the importance of diversifications in order to grow the business. Despite Chinese threats, democracy remains strong, as evidenced by the Economist Democracy Index, which ranked Taiwan 11th among Asian countries and higher than the United States. High uncertainty, geopolitical risk, and Taiwan's long unresolved status have kept the economy in the APEC region on edge. With Japan. Number 1. The Chinese annexations of Taiwan may have a negative impact on the Japanese islands of Yonaguni, the Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands, and Okinawa, affecting Japan's tourism sector. Number 2. The South China Sea accounts for 40% of Japan's sea trade. If China seizes Taiwan, it will almost certainly impose shipping restrictions, impeding Japan's trade and economic growth. Number 3. Given Japan's proximity to Taiwan, an escalations of conflicts and war situations will result in an import-dependent economy. Number 4. China is Japan's largest trading partner, and if Japan backs Taiwan, China will impose trade restrictions, slowing economic growth. Number 5. On the other hand, if Japan fails to assist the US in its support of Taiwan, the US-Japan alliance may suffer. With the US. Number 1. The Biden presidency is likely to take pro-Taiwan stance. Its commitment to Taiwan is rock solid, it said. Number 2. Taiwan is a major supplier of semiconductor chips to US technology companies, including Apple. This dependence, combined with the TIFA talks, could increase the US motivations to defend Taiwan in the conflict with China as well as deepen US-Taiwan ties. Number 3. The TIFA talks cover two major issues of concern: global semiconductor supply and COVID vaccines, which should strengthen ties between the United States and Taiwan in the near future. Number 4. To reduce dependence and sustain economic growth, the United States would more likely focus on diversifying its supply chains from China. With Australia. Number 1. Australia has signed an AUKUS defense and trade pact with the United States and the United Kingdom, which includes nuclear submarines, which China regards as an arms race. Australia has pledged its support for Taiwan. Number 2. Australia has faced increasing restrictions and frictions with China in recent years, which has hampered its trade growth prospects. China's escalations and retaliations would have an impact on Australian exports, including agriculture and mining, while retail, constructions, and manufacturing industries would suffer from Chinese import losses. And with India, like other major countries, does not have formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Informal ties, on the other hand, have been strong since mid-1990s. India's support for Taiwan could result in a potential tie that will assist India in establishing semiconductor plants. In contrast, the existing border tensions with China, India may face challenges from China, which could have a significant impact on India's chemicals and pharmaceutical sectors given the country's current reliance. The effect on the supply chain and business. Semiconductors, for example. Number 1. Taiwan is the world's largest manufacturer of electronic chips, which are used in almost every industry, from phones to laptops, watches to game consoles, industrial equipment to automotives, and aircraft and fighter jets. Number 2. TSMC, or Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is the world's largest foundry, accounting for approximately 65% of global chip productions. Number 3. Any potential conflict with China would completely disrupt TSMC's supply chain and labor availability, potentially resulting in a major shortage of electronic chips. Number 4. In addition, China controls 5% of the global chip productions, which could be impacted as well. Number 5. This could exacerbate the already existing supply-demand imbalance for electronic components. Opportunities. Number 1. At the moment, China can only meet 15 to 20% of global semiconductor demand and relies heavily on Taiwan and South Korea for semiconductor chip imports and electronic manufacturing. Number 2. Beginning in early 2021, Taiwanese companies began to withdraw from China, reportedly due to the rising business costs and trade tensions. Number 3. As part of the United States Strategic Competitions Act of 2021, companies based in China with a majority of their clients in the United States will be required to diversify their supply chain. Number 4. Long-term investment and investment-led trade between Taiwan and China are expected to fall, allowing Taiwan to secure a stronger supply chain position. Risk. Number 1. Taiwan's economy is heavily reliant on trade with China, and the Middle Kingdom accounts for a sizable portion of Taiwan's trade. Number 2. Despite Taiwan's political efforts to confront China, Taiwan's economic growth remains highly dependent on China, as evidenced by trade figures. Recommendation. Number 1. Trade and supply chain diversifications are critical for Taiwan's economic growth in the face of rising tensions with China. Number 2. To address any supply chain issues, businesses should look for alternative suppliers such as South Korea for semiconductor chips and intermediate electronic goods. What are your thoughts on this? Tell us about it in the comments. That's all we've got for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.